Rajan Navani, Chairman CII Committee, India Gaming Show, to give us a welcome speech and opening remarks.
Thank you, Madhurima. And well, I'm just going to declare this conference and this meet open, but it is, I think, for each one of us together to make sure that this succeeds. I think all of us are people who believe in the gaming ecosystem in India, and are here to see how we can make more out of this opportunity when we get together for 3 days. But just as a precursor to the the conversation that we're going to have around gaming over the next 3 afternoons, I'd like to just highlight a few key points that have emerged not only with India and its gaming ecosystem, but also something that came up in conversations with our honorable president, who launched this show this morning. And I think one thing came out very clearly. We truly are the most blessed country in the world when it comes to young people. I mean, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, Gen Betas, people yet to be born. And here's a large vision for our country. The next 25 years are going to be India's years, for the world. The Amrit Kal, as our Honorable Prime Minister likes to call it. And I think the future of India is going to be shaped by its youth. And there are no two ways that gaming is one area where young people connect with digital, with so many things that, they get to learn about as well as contribute back to. And I think it's in that context that the gaming show today, particularly in light of many of the other advancements in different new age technologies, is relatively more important. And I think this message came out very strongly. It's coming out strongly across government sectors. As many of us have been reading, a lot of new kind of directional frameworks for online gaming, esports are all beginning to emerge right now. So I think as a timing, we are sitting at a wonderful time to see how we can together shape and strengthen this ecosystem. I think the rise of esports in India is something that we must talk about, because ultimately it is the gamer who is deriving their joy and entertainment out of being a casual gamer and then actually becoming a professional. And I think that journey is really, again, giving more definition and a lot more opportunity for young people to participate, even from a livelihood standpoint, over this period of time. I think the Web3, the metaverse, new areas of being able to monetize in the digital world are all interesting opportunities that have opened up for gaming. And I'm sure XR, VR, AR are all going to further strengthen the future of the gaming industry. And like we always talk of, that India is going to play catch up to the world when it comes to the video game industry. But in new age technologies, new ways in which gaming will shape up the world, I think India has a very, very strong opportunity to be a global leader. So how do we build and shape this ecosystem, given that we have all of these aspects which are prime for us in India? And I think finally, the last point I want to talk about is the advent of 5G, right? We all believe that when data became free and data costs became low, there was a huge surge in gaming. And we've had millions of people who have come into gaming, and especially during the pandemic, made gaming really their first destination over social sites as well, because most of the young people I know made their new friends during the pandemic playing games together rather than going and meeting them in person, or even doing that on social media platforms. So I think 5G, which has now already been launched, and the generation of 6G, which is going to take away lag, is going to create a real-time opportunity for large numbers of people to come together. The data centers that are being built, the infrastructure that's going to go around it, I think is going to have a massive impact and is strongly going to boost the gaming industry in India. So I think there are many, many things that we can talk about over the next 3 afternoons. But I think it's important for us to understand that we are sitting at a very important point in the history of gaming in India. And hopefully, when we reach India at 100 and look back on the gaming journey for India, we'll remember this afternoon and many others, as the few times when we triggered new ideas, new thoughts, and built an industry that will be pretty much a very important part of the global ecosystem in the world in the future, something that we are aspiring to be out of India. With that, I welcome all of you and look forward to very interesting conversations over the next 3 days. Thank you. And to kickstart this session, we are going to engage in a little fireside chat I've invited Sohn from KRAFTON, the CEO of KRAFTON in India, to be here with us so that we can have a conversation around, how do we look at gaming, both from a global context, from an India perspective, and really have, all of you participate as well after we have had a few questions, to see how we can together, shape this ecosystem globally. So Sean, may I welcome you to join us up. So thank you, Sean, for being here with us. And you and Crafton have been a very strong player in the gaming industry. I've seen you adapt to India so beautifully yourself, move your family here, understand the culture, be a part of the Indian ecosystem, and entrench yourself so beautifully. And that has probably given you great insight also on the Indian ecosystem and the Indian gaming market. So maybe we to kickstart this conversation, it'd be lovely to hear from you. How has your experience been in India so far? What are some of the things you've seen and learned? And then we'll get into a conversation about other aspects.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say thank you to CII and to Rajan, you specifically invite me for this great events. I think it's a very nice event. I know that this has happened for the last few years. I think these events will get bigger and bigger in the next few years. As you just rightly put, I'm very enjoying living in India and working in India gaming industry. I feel that I can feel the vibe that we are actually all together, all of us sitting here, writing a early chapter of a big book of the India gaming industry. So I'm very excited to be in this exact timing in India.
So, when we talk of the video game industry in particular out of India, we see that we are a very small part of a very large global market, right? It's a 180 billion plus market. India is still about just $1 billion of that. Whereas when we look at the larger context in the world, we see the US, China, Japan, and Korea too, right? Which have emerged as very significant tens of billions of dollars of market share in this global market. So really, you want to take us through a little bit of the evolution of gaming, especially when it comes to Korea, so that, we can see how India can fast track and accelerate our progress, because we can't obviously grow at a single digit or at a low double digit number, given our size of the opportunity. So what are some of the, ways in which the Korean market evolved and some thoughts around how India can grow?
Okay. Thank you for the very nice questions. I just want to say first that we live in different eras. I started my career in gaming back in 2000. I actually went to Beijing in 2004 to set up a joint venture with a Chinese partner to publish some MMORPG games from Korea. That era actually, there are lots of differences in terms of back then PC was a main platform both in China and Korea. Now we have mobile as a dominant platform in India. So I just want to say that those experiences might not be exactly happening very similar way in India, but I just think that it might give you some clue how India gaming market will evolve. So in Korea, I think that after the wide penetration of broadbands, it actually triggered the beginning of gaming industry. We used to have a small game developers and publishers before internet, but actually internet brought the Korea gaming industry at a sizable industry, and then like me and my college seniors, like my chairman himself, started career in gaming from like late 90s. That's all the beginning of Korea gaming industry. And then I think Korean gaming industry was not very global competitive, but because of some cultural similarities and because of some technological similarities between China and Japan, back then Korean games can export. I mean, obviously we start to dominate our Korea market, but we could export from, let's say, early 2000 to other global markets like China, which has grown very fast. So actually that gives the early trigger of the big growth of gaming industry. And after that, as we all know that the mobile gaming become starting, and then that experience, MMOR to develop experience as a development house for global MMORPGs. Actually, that got transferred very well into the mobile gaming. Although as we all know, the Chinese companies also caught up very quickly, and then now China become a dominant player in mobile game development. But I think that's actually give a sense of how this technological change bring those industry, industry growth.
No, I think it's very commendable that you talk about a game being exported out of Korea that comes to India and becomes the number one game in India in an evolving global market. So definitely your understanding of the gamer mindset in different cultures was also a big part of that learning process. And we all know how hard it is to build a game that really becomes the number one game in any market, even in a particular genre, right? Like as JetSynthesys in the area of cricket, we can clearly say we've got a domination both in India and globally. But that market size is relatively smaller, even in a global context compared to the kind of genre that you are talking of, right? So I think the maturity of a market really will come by first capturing your own domestic market, and then probably trying to see how you can play larger roles in established markets or newer markets. So if you're looking at developers here coming out of India, right, what do you see when you're making investments? Do you really look at studios that are, or gaming ecosystems that are going to succeed domestically, or do you really look at them as ones that can play a much larger role globally? Or do we have to have a mechanism which can bridge both of these worlds before getting to excellence? How do you look at it personally, or even as KRAFTON?
Just being from like KRAFTON perspective, we honestly speaking, we are more excited about the growth potential of India gaming market, and also as we all know that the affluence of Indian people has improved quite dramatically, and we expect it to continue for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So we are more interested in finding game developers who can unlock the potential of the gamers, Indian gamers, rather than game developers who are targeting a global market. That's my honest answer.
Yeah, I think
different investors might have different appetites.
Yes, absolutely. And our mindset here is exactly the other way around.
Yeah.
How do we use an Indian company to go global and catch a much larger pie of that market? So in a way, it's great that two of us are having this conversation because they're very complementary mindsets, right? But at the core of this, I think it's still important to be able to build a great game, to be able to understand what is it that gamers want. Like we've seen Battle Royale, we've seen first-person shooter, we've seen those games succeed, right? If you were to bet on the next big trend in gaming, this conversation is about the future, right? What is that you're sensing, or your company's? And it may be a secret sauce, but I think it's worth sharing. We're not many people here, a few hundred people, won't make a difference.
Yeah, I feel that like we are talking with the friends, partners, and at least I think half of the audience looks very familiar to me. So I would speak more directly and more casually on this issue. So I think it's very difficult. It's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in gaming industry in, let's say, in the next 3-5 years. Just be honest. We are launching multiple games in a year. We are betting not small amount of money, big amount of money on this, but we don't really succeed in all those bets. So I think it's very difficult to predict what's going to be a next big trend in gaming industry. We are just making small or big bets on different directions. Then we hope for the best. That's what we are doing. So for the time being, what we sort of try to do, I think it's more like public information. so to say. So we are trying to find a small clue of new genres, whether it's a already known or it's a very small niche genre. We want to find the small genre which has a potential to become a mainstream. I think Battle Royale is one of the very good example in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty humble of you to say that even you don't know where the next trend is, and I think that not knowing attitude really makes you innovate, forces you to think differently, And I think somewhere in our learnings we find that many a times we get conditioned by our thoughts and our experiences, and that kind of in a way becomes a limiting factor for us to go and create and conquer new battlegrounds. So I think staying uncertain sometimes is good, and actually figuring out through the hard way, through right data, by taking multiple bets as to what is going to work and what isn't. So I think that's a great thought process here, for our audiences. But, one new trend, or I would say a trend that has been visible globally, and I think especially in the case of Korea, that has helped the Korean game industry really strengthen and grow, I think is the role of esports. And even this time at the India Gaming Show, you see a lot of the esports, activities. We find more people willing to compete professionally. So historically, what role has esports played, and how do you see esports really moving the needle in the future in India when it comes to gaming?
I think it's a very interesting question. I think it's a kind of well-known story in global esports industry. The esports industry in Korea started from StarCraft, which is developed by US company Blizzard, which is now part of Activision Blizzard. There was some controversy that why we are playing StarCraft, which is made by foreign companies too much, why we are building whole industry on top of this. But actually that become a gateway for lots of young people to start their career in gaming, not just in esports. You cannot be an athlete for, like football or like running or cricket. You like it, but you cannot become an athlete. I mean, all of you. I mean, some can do it. So what I'm just trying to tell you that esports itself, it's a very, big business. It can be a very profitable business, but at the same time, it can be a catalyst. It can be a gateway for young people to start their career and consider serious career in gaming. So I think in that sense, esports in Korea played a very, very good role in it. So I believe that in India it can happen also.
But consciously building an esports game is so different from building any other game, right? And even the investment required. So how do you see globally, right, esports shaping up? Because now it's become part of Olympics. We see them being recognized as a sport. Instead, India recognized esports as a part of multi-sports with the sports ministry. So tomorrow, when we are sending delegations or contingents of athletes for other sports, we now have at least an ability to represent esports, or you have people from India represent the country in esports. I think it's a huge jump, from where we are. And obviously the back end there, or the reason why we have esports even out here is because there is a game on which that sport is built, right? So I think it's a huge shift in what is the thinking around the future of gaming, especially as we think about it. But how do you see building esports games, as a exercise? I know you built one. We are attempting to build something in electronic cricket, So just how do you look at that journey?
I think it become very apparent that maybe from after the birth of Twitch, we've seen lots of games has been made to be more streamable. I think it has connecting points to what is, games suitable for esports should be maybe streamable first. I think PUBG, when we were making PUBG from late 2015, actually we saw Twitch and we found that that could be a very good marketing channel for the game. So we designed the game to be more streamable. I think that can be also applied for esports. So as far as understood, like many games in India also when they are designing the games, they think about esports and streaming. I think that's a very good way of approaching, more marketable games.
Sure, at the end of the day, any sport is only as good as not only the players who play it, but the number of people who watch it. So I think, it makes this whole exercise even more difficult as we are thinking of not only building a game that will excite people to play, but also, how will we get more and more people to watch others play it? And I think that's the beauty and the excitement about this generation of, gaming moving from where it is to esports. One other question that comes to my mind as we are talking of esports and, really building talent and people, at a grassroots level. One of the big advantages India has is, our human talent force, right? And, how do we get more people into game development, into design, into art, into engineering, into esport kind of livelihoods, right? Is there some thoughts that you have had or you've seen happen in other parts of the world that India can benefit from? Because one of the things that I find, constantly in my interaction with different government ministries, both at the center and the state, is can gaming and esports really provide a source of livelihoods and jobs in this country, right? The moment we are able to quantify that, or at least quantify the growth in jobs coming out of this sector, I think we will be able to, get this sector to stand on a much more strong foundation. So how do you see that part? You see more global gaming companies, kind of using Indian talent, to build their next generation of games, or how do you see that play out?
I believe that India already have lots of AAA game developers. Their internal studios with a very large size of developers in India. Although there is some gap in the talents, in some part of the talents that they cannot really create very new IPs on their own. But I think there is what I'm just trying to tell you is that there are some large base of talents which can be untapped and unlocked to make a unique new IPs. So in India there is such abundant talent resources. But then again, as you said, different countries have different history and environments. I think East Asian countries has a lot of industry which has been nurtured and led by the government to become global competitive. Like Western countries doesn't really have that history. But I think India might have some potential because given the status of gaming industry in a global market, it has a good resources, but it's not fully unlocked. So in that sense, I think government should play some leading role or catalyst role to unlock this more faster and more efficient.
Yeah.
So that's, what I can try to,
No, great point. And I think it is up to companies like yours, ours, and many others to also create that visibility of how those opportunities can get created, right? Like today, as we were discussing earlier, esports as an end goal for a gamer, for a casual gamer to progress to a mid-core, to become a professional gamer, embed their life in gaming is such a interesting phenomena that, as it picks up, we will recognize that. And it is like any other sport that has become large in the world. And I think still we need to convince parents in households when the kids will say, hey, I'm going to go and work in the gaming industry, because there is that stigma, what you rightly said. But at the same time, I think responsibly, how gaming companies can work with government and others to help shape that narrative, I think will also become, very, very important as one, continues to look at this growth. And I like the fact that you're talking of, Asia versus Western markets being a little different. Do you see that a lot of Korean companies and others who are using China and Chinese studios to build some of their products and games, like if you see globally, there is a shift in supply chains, countries are creating a China plus one strategy, many companies from different countries. Do you see that happening in gaming as well? Because that also will create a number of opportunities for Indian talent to become a part of the global supply chain in gaming?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point. Although I believe that gaming doesn't seem as a very strategically important for national interest, so there is no intentional sort of decoupling in terms of supply chain or game development ecosystem. But I see mostly for cost reasons. Cost reasons, there are some movement of game developments or some outsourcing in game development from China to different countries like Vietnam. I think India also is starting to get some benefits out of this.
Yeah, yeah. That was the whole idea. That I think, like many other industries, if there is more from a competitive advantage rather than anything else, everybody building an alternate strategy with India, that has a big effect for us to, be able to take this conversation further. And I think India also one new trend, and I think that we all want to build upon. And it also emerged in our conversation with the Honorable President this morning when I was talking to her about how the game industry is shaping and evolving. It's about the female gamers and their role and their participation in the gaming sector in India, right? Like this time at Sky Sports, we've got a all women esports championship going on. I think, is that a trend that you're seeing globally? Are more women coming into gaming? Are there going to be more livelihoods getting created, through women participation in gaming? And I think it's definitely a far stronger and a far better gender in any case in all aspects. So I think the involvement in gaming would probably be a good positive step for the industry. But do you see that as a trend globally?
I would say yes. Yes. I mean, to be honest, in esports, we haven't seen many female esports players to be, let's say, competitive enough to play with male players. We are yet to see that. But in game development side, even within KRAFTON, our chief art director is a female. She used to work for NC Salt, but before that she used to work for one of our top studio in Activision and led a lot of projects. So I can see that's happening, and there are like the larger number of female game developers in the industry. So I think that's actually happening everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's again a big trend that we should all encourage and see how to optimize that for the world, as we move to shaping this ecosystem. But coming to talking about shaping the ecosystem, I think we are all here to make this happen together. So we should open up for the last 10 minutes. For any of you wanting to make some comment, anyone wants to ask a question to either Sohn or me, or any generic comment that you want to make on how we can all work together really to shape this ecosystem, particularly out of India. So if you can just raise your hand, we'll have somebody. Yes, please. Can we get a mic across someone? If you can just mention your name and just ask the comment or the question. Thank you.
Hello, hi sir, how are you? My name is Deborah. I am from Indonesia, Jakarta. I'm from Unipin Global. I have a question for Mr. Shan. How does KRAFTON feels about Web3 gaming? And will KRAFTON be interested in heading to that direction in the future to create more balance within the player economy ecosystem? Because what we know about Web3 gaming, even though I understand that this is not the right time to go that way, right? But in the future, I believe that could be one of the interesting future that might be happening in game, because there are lots of publishers as well doing the Web3 gaming, and it also contribute good thing to the community as well, because it creates the balance. It gives opportunity to the players to have their own thing within the game. What do you think about that, and how do you feel about that? Thank you.
can you repeat the last part of the question?
It's about Web3
Yeah.
gamers and how can gamers, do you believe that KRAFTON will take that journey down?
Okay.
And
Yeah, in the
and is
future,
that-
in the future. Yeah, maybe not now, but because we all understand that crypto NFT right now is not in a good position, right? But in the future, like so many people believe that that will be the future of gaming. Because actually, I'm a gamer, so I used to play Ragnarok online back in my younger days. So when I play Ragnarok online back in my younger days, I used to collect like skin, and then I used to collect weapons, cards, and I can trade it with my friend. But then the gaming has like some changing, right? I mean, it's always evolved. And then the developers started to lock everything, and then we cannot trade anymore. We cannot sell stuffs anymore. So everything, if we want to sell stuff, we need to sell our account. But as a gamer, we have an attachment to our account. So will it going to be that way again, or I don't know? What do you think? How do you feel about that, and what do you think in the future? Thank you.
I got your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think it's a tough question to answer because I don't really sort of I mean we have invested in, I mean at the KRAFTON corporate level we have invested in like maybe 10, 15 Web3 based gaming studios. None of them actually made sizable revenue yet. And then honestly, we haven't really launched any Web3 first game yet. So I would say, despite all those excitement and hypes, I think it's still early stage. Early stage means like you haven't really found mass appealing game yet. Maybe there's some other examples which has been pretty popular, but most of them are not very sustainable. So I think it's a very interesting. I think lots of gaming companies, AAA companies, as far as understood, there are many AAA game developers who have a team, sizable team who are actually making games based on Web3. So I think it will come, but we cannot really know in what size, when. That's something that I cannot really understand. I mean, but as a company, I can say that we are actually working on it, as like any other companies, and hope that we can see something more commercially viable.
So, I will add to what Sean said. We also see gaming companies really moving slower than non-gaming companies coming into Web3, right? So gaming companies have a Web 2.5 kind of an approach. Why don't you have play to earn? Create those game mechanics and the tools to enable you to do that. But when it comes to large levels of tokenization and democratization of that, I think some of the gaming companies globally are moving relatively slow. But we have a whole session, on Web3 over these next 3 days, where I think the experts will go deeper into it. So we must definitely talk about it there as well. And there are so many new technologies, Sean, that are going to shape the future, right? This is the future of gaming. And when we talk of excitement of technologies, I'd love to understand which technology excites you, and maybe in the audience, if there's any particular technology you think that is going to shape the future of gaming, what is it, right? We have a lot of people who have invested in gaming companies and others who run gaming companies here in the audience. Anything that crosses your mind? Your big bet.
My big bet. I mean, now because of ChatGPT, I think my answer would sound very generic. But I think AI will be they will play a key role in game design, gameplay, because I mean we have been. There are lots of jokes about how how dumb NPC is in the game, and why. That's why also multiplayer gameplay is so crucial in success of free-to-play games. But then again, I feel that if we make a proper AI, maybe AI elements within the game, I think it could be very interesting.
No, and the AI elements can run across because AI has been very intrinsic to gaming, unlike other industries. No, great. Anybody else has any other thoughts on, yeah, or questions?
Hello.
Oh, okay, whoever has the mic, maybe. After that, next, yeah. Yeah, please
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Alex. I'm from Russia, and it seems like I represent Russian game industry here. Mm, Russia is a good friend of India. Also, in Russia, there is strong e-sport. You know, pretty good game companies. And what do you think about networking between Indian companies, gaming companies, and Russian companies in the future? Is it possible to build something together? That's my question.
Networking, you said?
Together to work together for some projects, maybe. Maybe there is, Western gaming industry, and maybe we can build something different together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great point, and we know that there is certain expertise that Russian talent has that probably is missing with Indian talent or some other talent around the world. And I think two different talent teams coming together to create something is always exciting. At JetSynthesys, we've partnered with many Japanese companies who've always had a tough time taking their products out, but actually working with them to build games not only for the India market, but also globally. So I agree with you, there are a lot of opportunities. And especially when it comes to gaming, I think it's the young people from the two countries that need to connect. These are tough geopolitical times, but hopefully we will see a lot more collaboration and business actually taking forward the global agenda rather than politics and other things. And I think this year we are privileged that the G20 is being led by India, and CII, who is the Secretariat, and Madhurima and all work for CII of this gaming show, is the Secretariat for the entire B20. So all the 20 countries around the world that have made any meaningful contribution to the global economy are part of this large network that will be engaging deeply with India. So I'm sure there will be a lot of opportunities that will come on even beyond, Russia for that matter. Thank you for that question. You want to add something or anyone? Yeah, please.
Hi. So my name is Anshul. I'm the co-founder of Converse. We are working on AI-based 3D mesh optimization. So my question for both of you is, what other sectors in gaming industry do you see as being impacted by AI in near future? So what other divisions in AI in gaming will be impacted by?
What's the impact between AI and gaming? AI and gaming.
If I understand correctly, your question is about how AI
Will impact
can
different
impact.
sectors in gaming, like.
So can you speak up a little bit? It's a little.
Okay. What sectors in gaming, like one is 3D, one is gameplay, one is analysis. So these kind of, what kind of sectors do you think will be most impacted by AI?
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, your question is about how AI can impact which
different
area
sectors,
of
yes.
gaming.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So I don't, I cannot answer for everyone in the game industry, but we have, within KRAFTON, we have discussed on this at the management team workshop. And so my understanding is we can categorize into two areas. The first is gameplay. So AI can impact certain part of gameplay. And then the other area is AI can improve or save costs in game development. These are two areas. When we see immense progress in both sides, we see more progress on game development sides rather than the gameplay side. gameplay side, there are like a few pilot projects within our company. I believe that there are some other companies who are doing this too, but we haven't seen any breakthrough in this gameplay change using AI. But in game development side, there are lots of progress. I mean, there are some AI voice company which has been acquired by one game engine company which can replace certain part of voice actors. That's also one part. And there are like, AIs who can actually write codes. Maybe not for game development, but I think we will see some AI plugin which can write codes for game development. So I think that's something that I understood, but I'm not sure whether my answer suffice.
Rajan, any take of your take?
Yeah, someone. Yeah, thank you. No, I think we've anyway run out of time, so we will keep this as the last question. But what you raised is a very important point because ultimately, when the game beats the gamer every single time, there is a reason for the gamer to now enhance their capacity. And if this conversation is really about future of gaming, and I think this is going to be a constant battle between a gamer or a human being and the machine, right? We see even ChatGPT talks of ChatGPT being able to score a B+ at a Harvard MBA already, right? So one day, the ChatGPT or the machine will be smarter than the human, as we are seeing in the gaming. So then the only way for the gamers to really create new games is to put a chip in your brain, expand your capacity, and create and imagine the next world, right? Because we only use about 7% of our brain capacity today. So I think this is a very exciting point to leave this conversation because the future is really about imagination. The future is about being able to bring the best of technology and gamers and experience and entertainment because gaming is at the center of it all. I think with streaming, with esports, gaming first entertainment, gaming led, artificial intelligence change is going to be the way the world and the future is going to be. And my last point I really want to make as we end this conversation, and I was talking to a lot of industry leaders who are talking of who are they going to employ, in the next 10, 15, 20 years. They're all Gen Zs, they're all people who are inherently gamer first before they become even workers, right? And imagine how are those people going to shape the workplace. So I think gaming is going to, and gamification is going to enter pretty much every area of a person's life as we move forward. And if we have to kind of think and imagine that, we have to do it collectively together and help shape it. So with that, thank you, Sohn, for joining us here and coming all the way to Delhi and for kickstarting this lovely conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan, for such an insightful session. Thank you, Sohn, for joining us today.